Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Hello from very warm Seattle. If you have not seen the forecast or weather reports, it is super hot in the Pacific Northwest. But that being said, welcome to our always weekly installment of ISV Connect Live. My name is Brian Galicia. I lead our global BizApps ISV business. And it's my honor and pleasure to welcome Tatyana from Pendo to talk about all things digital adoption platform related. But before we get to Tatyana, let's just set a few reminders and ground rules to the event itself. So first off, we'd love to hear where you're watching from. If you're watching from the sunny coast of Florida or California, or maybe you're watching from somewhere in Europe, the UK, the Netherlands, Denmark. If you just want to put in the LinkedIn window where you're watching from, we can do a quick shout out and recognize, again, our international audience that typically is on this. Also, during the event, if there's something that catches your eye or your interest in the conversation, definitely leverage one of the LinkedIn icons at the bottom. Like, support, celebrate, whatever it is, because that also gives us indication that it's actually super relevant in the conversations that we're going through. And then finally, if you want to follow ISV Connect Live, the hashtag just ISV Connect Live, you'll get a view of all the relevant content that we always talk about regarding BizApps ISVs, similar to Pendo. So with that being said, Tatyana, thank you so much for spending time on a Monday morning to have this conversation. So one thing is, once you kind of describe your background, who you are, and then, of course, the typical question I always ask of all my guests are, what's one thing that doesn't exist on your LinkedIn profile that you'd like to share with the people watching?
Sure. So thank you for having me here, and thanks for having Pendo, Brian. My name is Tatyana Mamut. I am the head of new products at Pendo. Pendo is a platform that really helps companies get their users onboarded, get their employees onboarded, and really improves the experience with software for everyone who uses software, right? So we don't create software in a vacuum. We create it so that people can have better experiences. Whether you're a consumer company or a B2B company, you want people to have a great experience with the products that you produce. And Pendo really gives people the insight to understand how are people using your software, where are they struggling, where are they falling off, and then the tools to actually remediate as well. So to build guides, to create in-app surveys, to really help everyone get onboarded and use software in the best way possible. So that's what Pendo does. I joined recently to lead the digital adoption products, which really help employers get their employees to have better experiences with software as well. So what we realized is that all of the ways in which startup companies and software companies, the ways that they understand how to make software more usable and have their users have a better experience with it, employers should be doing that too. IT departments, when they buy, big software implementations, they can use the same insights and the same guides, the same tools that tech companies use to really help their employees, right, adopt their software, have a better experience. So that's what we're doing. And we've got some really great companies that are already using our platform to drive digital adoption within their companies.
Oh gosh, Tatyana, what a great intro, and it's a good lead into my next question. Before I get to the next question, though, let's do a quick shout out to a couple of people watching. Lisa from Ontario, Canada, one London, and then I'm not sure if this is the same London. Lonnie, maybe you are from the same London, Ontario, or maybe you're from London, England. I'm not quite sure, but thanks for joining us. And I apologize, Sepher or Sapir. Thank you for watching from Dallas, Texas. Yeah, it's hot here. I can definitely appreciate that. Yeah, because it is, I know Texas typically gets hot, but yeah, in Seattle, it's super hot. John, thanks for watching from Raleigh. That's actually where my sister actually lives. So great to see you from Raleigh. Jack or Jaquise, thanks for watching somewhere in the US of A. Paula.
Or maybe Jacques. Yeah.
Jacques. Yeah, thank you. So Paula is Jacques. We have Paula watching from, this is from Mexico. So thanks, Paula, for joining us this morning. Angie, gosh, one of my favorite places in California, Lake Tahoe. I love watching skiing, and just even during the summer, fantastic place to visit for people who haven't been there. And then thanks, London, England. So the other London, we have one from London, Canada, one from London, England. So thanks everybody for chiming in. And I'm going to switch it over. Feel free to continue to kind of post where you're watching from, but also during this conversation, we welcome questions. So if there's something that we're talking about, particularly insight that Tatyana is running through about all this experience, the employee experience and digital adoption, please don't hesitate to put those questions in the LinkedIn window, and we may be able to have time towards the end, ask a few questions live to where Tatyana can just provide her point of view. So with that great intro, Tatyana, of what you talked about, tell us about how is Pendo accelerating digital transformation, particularly because, of course, the good news is we feel like we're turning the corner with the pandemic. I mean, depending on where you're at, but at least here in the US, California, the state of Washington, we're turning that corner where we're hopefully going to get a little back to normal. But during this past year plus that we've been in it, give us a little bit of perspective of what you've seen, what Pendo has specifically seen, and how has Pendo really transformed, to your point, employee engagement, digital adoption, acceleration through the solutions that you provide.
Yeah, so what we've seen is that companies, especially large enterprises, have been on a digital transformation journey for several years, and that's really sped up, obviously, in the last year. We've seen the acceleration of both the, the spend in, for SaaS applications. So companies now are increasing their spend by about 50% every year. And that has really increased during the last year as well, especially if you consider all the Guerrilla IT and the Guerrilla SaaS apps that have been purchased by employees to help do their jobs as they went into lockdown. And employees, on the other hand, they are, they're now using on average around, 15 apps per day. Different SaaS applications, different applications that they move through, different things, different workflows that they need to do their jobs. A lot of these are brand new. And they're actually saying that only a third of those are empowering and easy, right? So that means 2/3 of them are not. And what there's a real gap, right, between how employers are planning their digital transformation efforts and how employees are experiencing them on the ground. And employees really need help. And they need help not in a cookie cutter way, right? Because there are some people who are really experienced with the software that you're putting in place that don't want, really complex, onboarding, and they don't want to go to training sessions, and they don't want to do all the stuff, right? They just want to get to work. And there are some that really need a lot more hand-holding. And so the first step in effective digital adoption is to have organizational insight. And that organizational insight at an employee level, at a department level, really helps you understand which employees are struggling to adopt the software. And so you can actually target then the right message to the right employee at the right time, right? So what Pendo actually does is we have incredible capabilities around, data analytics to understand who is using software, right? And then most importantly, what segments of people, right? And all the way down to the individual level. So you can actually look at your employees by segment, by location, by role, by department. So a lot of metadata that you bring in, but also based on their behavior. So have they used, right, this software before? Where have they dropped off, right, in their usage of the software in the past, in the past 2 times that they've come into it, right? So you can really start to understand where people are struggling and get them past those hurdles without bombarding them with lots of messages and lots of lots of information and having them search, over here and over there, where are the help documents, right? Where do I get, help? And so, what we actually have heard from our customers is that when you create just more documentation, when you create more videos and more guides and, more things, what happens is that people resort back to just emailing or Slacking the person that they think that can help them. right? And so then your support and help costs go way up. So, so what we're trying to do is really provide business leaders with the insight first, right? The real data and the analytics so that they can very surgically and parsimoniously, right, deliver the right message to the right employee at the right time to make them feel like, you know, someone is there to help them proactively. And they don't have to go and reach out and Slack and email, you know, people that they think might help them in the organization. So it's a real incredible turning point because we've seen so many digital transformation efforts. And we've also seen how when we just add more and more and more, it starts to break down, right? Nobody wants to be bombarded with all these messages. They just want the one message they need to get them past their workflow and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, Tatyana, gosh, what a good lead in, because you think about, I think during our pre-show, we were talking about pop-ups, like back in the day when you had internet browser, and that still happens. And all of a sudden you start, sometimes the pop-ups are useful, but sometimes they start to get annoying and you're like, oh, I got to remove this or do this. And it seems like what you just described is that kind of paradigm, but also to your point, every employee is going to have a different journey. And when you think about that journey, especially when you think about business applications and the work that we're doing together with Dynamics, anytime you roll out a new business application, as you and I know, whether it be traditional customer relationship management or even more complex enterprise resource planning, and you're thinking about HR tasks or supply chain tasks or finance tasks, and you put a new system in front of someone, how do they even, to your point, get started without this too much or too little to get the right type of information to help with that adoption?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, what we've seen, you know, you mentioned like the pop-ups in the consumer software experience years ago. So what actually made that a much better experience was the data, right? To allow for personalization to happen, right? So you could limit the number of messages because now consumer software companies had the data to know this isn't relevant to you, so we're not going to give you that pop-up. But this is relevant to you, so we're going to give you this communication, right, on any consumer application. So really what Pendo is doing is helping, you know, B2B companies as well as the IT teams within large enterprises have that power of data to personalize the software experiences for employees in the same way that, you know, the big consumer companies, right, started to use smart data and smart analytics to personalize their experiences. And so we went from, in the consumer world, we went from cacophony to really awesome, you know, relevant Google ads. And that was only made possible because we had all of this rich data about what do people need, what do they find relevant, what have they done previously, right? So you build relevance, right? And it's not one size fits all, right? If I don't have a dog, I'm not getting tons of, you know,
dog messages,
dog ads, right? Like ads for dog food. Yeah. But if I've searched, right, dog relevant things previously, then I do get, you know, ads for dog food because Google knows, right? And so we're using that same insight, right, to drive better experience, more relevant experience, more personalized experience for companies, right? And allowing them to really have the power to support their employees in relevant ways.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's really taking the course in our space with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Sounds like Pendo's really taking advantage of those principles to really build a system of intelligence for adoption. So that exactly your point, you're making it super relevant so that as the system learns and knows exactly the journey, each unique employee, not totality, but you and me, we learn differently, our experiences are different. And when I go into a new capability or a new solution like Dynamics, immediately starts to analyze, here is the journey I need to take you on versus here's the journey I need to take myself on. Fantastic. So
that's exactly right. And not every, you know, salesperson has, right, experience the same level of experience with Dynamics. So some employees, right, this might be their first time in Dynamics. And so they need a step-by-step, onboarding journey. And some, this is their, 15th time or 150th time or 500th time into Dynamics. And so they don't need that, right? And so, but they might need, a new custom field, right? To be introduced to like a new custom field or a new, something that has just been created. They might need help with some change management, but not the full flow, right? And that's the intelligence that organizational insight gives you.
I love it. So let's talk about Pendo's experience. Of course, I do remember, gosh, it was over a year ago where various executives and people from Pendo had reached out and said, hey, we'd love to be part of the Microsoft ecosystem. And it's so great that that reach out occurred, because now, of course, Pendo is part of our Microsoft ecosystem, and you're going to get to kind of an example of a great customer story. But what has the experience been like for your exposure, Tatyana, in just the Microsoft Pendo engagement so far?
Yeah, it's been overall a really great experience. We're thrilled to be kind of inside Dynamics and to really be partnering with companies, especially global companies with, with employees all over the world. I mean, the reach of Microsoft just, is amazing, right? And so we've gotten just so much reach. And we have people using Pendo in so many countries now, partly because, of this partnership with Microsoft. So that's been amazing to see. And the other thing that we've really loved is that, Microsoft as a partner is really aligned with our company values. And in fact, a few months ago, earlier this year, we partnered together on diversity and inclusion initiative. And so we were delighted to be able to, really be highlighted in some of Microsoft's work around companies that are doing, great things on diversity and inclusion. So from so many reasons, in terms of values, in terms of what we care about, but also in terms of just the business reach and the impact we can have together, it's been really fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for calling that out, Tatyana, because as soon as you started talking, I realized, yes, there wasn't that opportunity back earlier this year. I think it was around the March, April timeframe, where there was an opportunity where we solicited just feedback from our partner ecosystem saying, hey, we're doing this diversity and inclusion event. Who potentially has some great examples and stories, to your point, where companies were aligning, and your name or you and the team measly raised their hand going, we have a story to tell. And It was so great to be able to do that, because I agree, it's not just the business side, but what are we doing to all better just our environments, our communities, our organizations, to really reach out, especially when you think about this month, Pride, that ability for organizations where, to your point, the core principles of what we're based on, super aligned. So great, thank you. So let's talk about some success stories. So of course, you've talked about and you framed up, like, what are some of the challenges? Why would someone even be thinking about this? And what are some of the things that Pendo uniquely brings to bear? In your experience, Tatyana, in the work that you've seen and done with the teams, particularly the Pendo selling teams working closely hand in hand with Microsoft, what are some customer examples or a customer example that you'd like to kind of share with what you've observed to see people transforming in the ways that you've talked about?
Yeah. So what we see is, again, the people who come to us are usually really forward-looking executives. So HR leaders, IT leaders, CIOs, chief digital officers, and even CISOs, right? Chief information security officers. And they understand that when they've made a big bet on a piece of software, and, the Microsoft ecosystem is amazing, right? And really multifaceted. So when they've made a bet on, software or an ecosystem, right, that they're about to grow, and that they understand, they have a plan and a vision, right, for how that's going to make their company more efficient, more effective, and their employees more engaged, that just doesn't happen overnight, right? You can't just deploy the software and have everybody using it exactly in the way that the plans happened in your head. Right. So they come to Pendo to really partner with that transformation effort. And what we do is we really kind of work together, sometimes also, with a consulting partner, sometimes just directly with the team. And we kind of plan out, how are the systems, right? How is the technology, the processes, and the human side, the people side of the organization, how is that all going to come together to drive this transformation that you have planned, right? That you imagine in your mind, right? So what are all of the elements, and what are all the touch points, and what are all the things that you need to know? What's all the data that we need to harvest in order to get you right to that end goal? And so, with one company, I'll tell you the story of an amazing company, and it's one of the biggest transformation efforts I've heard of, because it spanned, over 38 countries across multiple time zones with over 1,200 internal users, sales teams, and it was around the implementation of Microsoft Dynamics. So Essity, which is one of the biggest global health and hygiene companies, they have brands that I'm very familiar with because I lived in Russia. So their brands are household names almost everywhere, everywhere in the world. In the United States, we don't know them that well, but they're amazing brands. And so they were driving a global transformation, digital transformation, again, across, a huge expanse, and it was really, and Microsoft Dynamics was brought in to really power this transformation. And so what they did was that they used Pendo on top of the Microsoft Dynamics CRM to really guide the end-to-end sales process. And they improved the process quality, they improved speed and service to customers. And they were able to really harmonize the work processes and the business processes and stop the fragmentation that was happening. In each country, you might have one process versus another one. And then with the implementation of Microsoft Dynamics, and then with the guidance and the insight from Pendo, they were able to harmonize all of these processes, get teams working together across countries, drive, quality and efficiency, and actually just create a better working relationship between people, right? Because now they had a system of record, a system of engagement, and the understanding and the insights into what other people were doing, as well as common, business processes, so that they were able to work together better. So it was an incredible transformation that we made possible together.
I love it. Gosh, and when you put that together, just saying the environment of 38 countries alone sparks so many things because of the challenges of time zone, but language. I mean, to your point, when you mentioned to me in the pre-show that you not only speak Russian, and you might speak other languages, but the fact that employees, not just based on their time zone experiences, but they're speaking a different language as they're interacting with a system of record like Dynamics. How do those things come together? And it's great. Gosh, what an amazing journey and story and success story that both of us, for us coming together, we're able to drive. I'm looking forward to many more of those examples, because I know that there's an opportunity for both of us to do that together.
Yeah, and when you think about also the human impact, just, of delivering health and hygiene products across the globe, right? And making people more effective in doing that, that's also a huge human impact. So, we're really proud of that transformation and super happy we were able to do it together.
I love it. So we're getting close to the end of the session. So I want to make a shout out again for people watching. If you're watching live and you do have a question, and maybe something that Tatyana talked about or mentioned in regards to the journey, feel free to just type in that question in the LinkedIn window, because we will potentially have an opportunity to maybe bring up one question pop up if that's something top of mind. But as we kind of wrap up, Tatyana, how do people learn more? I mean, what are some of the next steps when you think about people who are like, wow, this is super interesting. How do I learn more about what Pendo can potentially do? What would be your recommendation on how people can get started and get exposed to this digital journey for people who may not even have something? And it may not be just Dynamics. Of course, we'd love to have people using Dynamics, but it may be other Microsoft technology or other solutions. What are things that, for someone who's like, wow, I really want to have a solution like this to help me with this digital adoption journey, what would be your recommendations for people to get started?
Well, I would say, contact us. We, you can visit the app source, which we'll be providing the link for. You can email me directly. I'm just Tatyana@pendo.io. That's Tatyana with a Y, pendo.io. And, just try out our solution, right? See how easy it is to get insight and to build guides and experiences for your employees, right, and for your users, internal users. Really just try it out, understand, right? Once you actually can see what people are doing within the organization, that's the best way to experience what this is. We're also going to have, a big conference where you can learn more. It's called Pendemonium. It'll be in Raleigh, North Carolina, and virtual in October. And so there will be a Microsoft presence and participation. So we'll be able to kind of show and demo how we're working together a little bit more. But just get in touch with us. We'd love to show you what we're working on and love to show you how you can power your business and speed up your digital transformation.
I love it, Tatyana. Pendemonium, my gosh, what a good play on words. I love that.
It's fun. It's super fun. And we really make it an exciting, if people have missed conferences or, want a fun place to get together with people again, it's a really great place to come and to get back into the swing of business and enjoy each other's presence as we think about how we're going to, kind of move toward the future.
And I can personally attest to Raleigh, North Carolina is a fantastic city and place. Biased because, again, my sister lives there. My niece just graduated from NC State a couple of months ago. So I can attest to the fact that it is a fun city to actually host an event like this. As Tatyana mentioned, I did put in the link, and it does give a pointer to not only the app source listing of Pendo, or you could just go to appsource.microsoft.com and type in Pendo and actually see the solution that spans the various workloads of Dynamics, but also it creates a pointer to the actual press release off of Pendo's website that talks about the initial journey that Pendo and Microsoft started together. Also, because we're running this off of LinkedIn, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us on LinkedIn itself. Send us a connection request or a message, a LinkedIn in-mail to drive that engagement and dialogue. And it was a great shout out, Paula. Thanks. Love the conference name. So that's good to see. So with that being said, any last minute comments or things you'd like to close on, Tatyana, for the people watching and listening? We didn't get any questions, which is not a problem, but any last minute comments or questions that you'd like to, or comments that you'd like to close out on the session on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know this, but sometimes it bears repeating just because we're so busy in all of our jobs that, the idea of digital transformation is really a people idea, right? It's not just about the software, and it's not even primarily about the software. Software is the starting point, but the software exists to help your employees. And so as we think about that holistically, and we think about great platforms like Dynamics and like the Power Platform, we start there. We start with our plans and our goals, but then we need to figure out how to bridge the gap for people actually using the software as we intend them to use it, right? And so that bridge is what we hope to power and what we hope to help you within your organization. So working together, I think we will get there, and we'll make everybody's experience with software better, especially our employees who are just inundated with apps today.
What a great close, Tatyana, because I agree. It's like we get so, especially when new capabilities come out. You might have been using an app for so long, and then new version comes out, and you're like, well, what do I do now?
Right.
And so what a great closing conversation, and thank you so much. And so I just know, team, or people who watch this show, we will not have one next week. We are celebrating, for those in the U.S., 4th of July, even though 4th of July is on a Sunday, is officially celebrated on Monday. So we will not have an event that week, but we will have one the Monday after. So thank you again for everyone watching. Feel free to, again, follow, connect with Tatyana, myself, ISV Connect Live. Tatyana, Pendo, thank you so much for allocating time to spend time to talk about the success we're having together, the journey we're on together. And I look forward to hearing more accessity type of wins and conversations in the future, and potentially seeing how Pendemonium and all those things start to come into play as we get hopefully back to normal later this calendar year.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it too.
Great. Well, thanks, Tatyana. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching. Continue to be well, stay safe, and we'll talk soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.